Okay guys, strap in because we today are going to be talking about how to lead a band rehearsal for your worship team. So I've been doing this for a good while, and here are some things that I found to be super helpful. I want to share them with you. If you have found anything to be helpful in your context, please do share it in the comment section down below or wherever you happen to be listening and watching. So I would say the journey of having a good rehearsal and a good worship service begins on Monday. Monday's typically where I'd put all the songs together and kind of know what I was going to be singing. So I'm not going to get into worship planning, how to plan a worship service. I'm just going to talk basically about how to prepare for the music rehearsal aspect of things. So I have up here, first thing you want to have, I would say, is demos. So if you just send out sheet music to your musicians, that's pretty abstract. It's more helpful, I think, I've found, to send out the actual demos of how you want things to actually sound on Sunday. So obviously there's grades of this. If you send out some huge anthem that was recorded in a stadium by a professional worship band, and then you send it to your djembe player and your violinist and say, I want to sound like this, there's going to be problems. But maybe you have to do that, but just tell them, like, just adapt as good as you can. But ultimately, if you have the resources to record your own demos or to find a demo, an audio or a YouTube video, whatever, that you can send that's going to be very similar to what you're doing on Sunday, that's going to be best. The closer you can get, the better, right? So same goes for the music. I have sheet music written there. Ideally, at the bare minimum, I would say by Monday or Tuesday, have your chord charts fully prepped with the correct lyrics, correct chords, whatever key you need them. Say a guitarist needs a capo key, and then if you need, a clarinet needs a B flat key or whatever. And then the chord chart, here's what's important, here's what I found to be very helpful, is use the chord chart as your roadmap, okay? Don't say repeat chorus, actually put the chorus in your chord chart. Verse 1, full chorus, full verse 2, full next chorus, full bridge. Don't say repeat bridge, actually put it in. And then put in final chorus and put it in there with the tags. This helps the musicians visualize the pathway through the whole song. Instead of them having to abstractly or conceptually remember to like repeat this line because there's a parentheses that says 2x next to it. Try to stay away from that sort of symbolism as much as possible. Have everything visually there as much as you can. I've been able to put all my worship songs and fit them on one page, sometimes 2 pages if need be, but it's worth it. It's worth the extra pages if you have to. So have your sheets, your chord charts at least. Next, if you can do lead sheets, if you have the resources to throw together a melody with the chords above it, this is really helpful if you're bringing in flute players, violin players. They can come and at the bare minimum, if they're not comfortable improvising around chord charts, which we'll talk about that later, they can at the bare minimum play the melody they see in front of them. You could tell them, only play the second half of verse 1 or only play at these points to help with variation, because a constant melody playing with a flute and a violin might be too much. So give them direction on when to not play or play. The point is, at the bare minimum, a lead sheet gives you more opportunity to invite orchestral players in and novice players who like to see simple melodies. Okay, so going back, I've had great flute and violin and clarinet and all kinds, trumpet, all kinds of players who could use a chord chart. Now the chord chart, here's how to communicate to orchestral players with a chord chart. You tell them, first of all, they're painting textures. They're not here to blast and come up with crazy ideas. They're here to just paint textures and follow the dynamics of the drum set or the guitar player or whoever's leading. And you're going to tell them to hold drone notes with lots of dynamic fluidity, swelling in and out. And you're going to say, look at the chord, and you say it's a G. That means you can play a G, a B, or a D. And and drone that note throughout the time that the chord says to be played over the lyrics. So that's really easy. G, A, G. That might be all they play for a G, D, and E minor chord. G, A, G, and that'd be really beautiful. It'd work well. That's pretty simple for even novices to understand. Just drone something that's in the chord and make it musical and pretty. The other thing you can tell them is to eventually start adding a run. G, A, B, C, B. Start adding tension and release too if they understand enough about music. So I'm just giving you the grades of being able to talk to your orchestral players about how to play with chord charts. But again, if you have the resources, bring in that lead sheet. I like to keep my lead sheets and my chord charts to one page, so I like to simplify and not overcomplicate things. But if it makes things simpler to have a 2 or 3 page part for, say, a violin player, instead of having all the coda or DCL coda stuff that I still don't understand, and I was a composition major in college. I don't think anyone does understand that stuff. That's just my theory. Let's just get rid of the El Capo, DCL Capo stuff. Let's drop it. Okay, just add the extra page. Okay, so then I would say, in addition to having the full correct demos if you can, and the full correct chord charts and lead sheets, violin parts if you got them, if you're at that level, pull all you can, and then have the keys figured out. You want the right key, but on Sunday, don't change keys on anybody. That should be a very rare occurrence if absolutely necessary. The other thing I would say is on Monday and Tuesday, when you're getting all this stuff, all the sheets and chords and demos, also be very defined about who's doing what. Some advanced players, you can say, hey, can you just show up with your like auxiliary percussion kit and just do stuff? That's fine because they know they're not going to be driving the train. They're just adding extra stuff. So it'd be fun for them to just show up and jam. But for most of your key players, you need to be very clear about what you're doing. You're singing low harmony, you're singing high harmony, I'm singing lead, or whatever. Be really clear with your singers about that. Drums, be like, here's the drum beat. Use the snare for this one. If you want to change it up, that's fine. Leave room for creativity. But start with a lot of clarity, not dogmatic clarity, but clarity. And then the musicians know what to build off of. Avoid saying something like, I used to do this a lot early on. I used to say like, yeah, just whatever, man, whatever you want to do, it's fine. And I wouldn't give them any idea of what I wanted. I trust you, man, I trust you. Okay, but what do we... there needs to be someone managing and producing and offering the initial goal. The goal or the definition, that things need to be defined early so that if there is creativity, they have a place to start from. Okay. All right. And then for rehearsal time, scheduling your rehearsal time, a lot of churches will do like Wednesday, because like in the Baptist community, there's like Wednesday Bible studies and choir rehearsals. And so that's when the band would rehearse too. What I do is on the Monday and Tuesday, when I send the detailed demos and everything they need to work on their own at home, especially with smartphones now, I had rehearsals be just like the hour before the worship time, or like an hour and a half before the worship time on Sunday. So that way the musicians, I'd schedule them once a month usually, and they could show up like an hour and a half before. Our rehearsal would be like 45 minutes, 30 minutes if it was like we were knocking it out of the park. And then they could go hang out with people and drink coffee and then relax and then come back and get back on the stage for the actual worship service. So I like doing that. It seemed to minimize people's commitment times. It didn't break up their week, and they're already coming to church on Sunday. So I did rehearsals on Sunday. It worked really well. But you do you. Next, at the actual rehearsal. So come rehearsal time, the first thing, the most important things you want to touch on are intros, outros, and any hard spots, like a key change or an interesting moment that you're adding. Don't add too many interesting moments. Pick 1 or 2 per Sunday. But just hit those spots. Don't just rehearse through the song 4 times, and that'll waste everybody's time. You just want to start your intro, rehearse the intros twice, make sure rehearse the outros twice at least, and make sure any hard spots are covered. Focus on those things. So I like to do a talk through of the song, a brief talk through, hit the intro, stop, hit the intro again, and then play through the song, knowing that everyone's already been coached on what to do with each verse. And freely talking during the song to reinforce it. And then the outro, and then after we finish the song, I'll go back and make sure our outro was good. And then I'll ask for any questions. Everyone understand that pretty good. And then, honestly, often that'll be all that we do. After I go through all 4 or 5 of the songs like that, I'll then go back and we'll just hit the intros again. And after the intros, I'll pray with the band and we'll leave. So don't just play through a song and then play through it again. I think the second playthrough can sometimes be laborious, because really all you need to do, and all the musicians are wondering about, was did we do the intro well and are we good on the outro? The rest of the stuff is fine. As the song's moving along, all 4 verses, everyone can play inside the song, no problem. So just pick the spots. That's why I put something here called pick your battles. Pick the spots you want to attack, do those 2 or 3 times, and let the playthrough of the song be maybe just one time. The first song you rehearse, though, when the band finally gets plugged in and the sound check happens. Oh, I didn't talk about sound check. By the way, I'll do a whole separate video on AV sound checking. That's a whole separate category. This video is more for the musicians, if you couldn't tell. Pick your battles and don't be laborious in your playthroughs. So yeah, I would say the first song you rehearse that morning, or the first song you rehearse at rehearsal, you're probably going to want to do that song entirely again, because essentially it was just a warm-up. Everyone was just kind of shaking the dust off. So the other thing I would suggest is if you're working with a lot of beginner musicians or hobbyist musicians, keep over and over stressing the value of dynamic contrast. Tell the guitarist to palm mute, to maybe just array chords, the chord changes for a couple verses. Really explore with soft and loud and the dynamic contrast between those things. Because otherwise people will just play full bore. And then I would say move on. Like that relates to what I was saying earlier. Don't beat the dead horse. As long as the song's moving on just fine, don't say, let's play through the whole thing again. You can hear some of the musicians, the better musicians, going, Just touch on the tough spots, the intros, outros. And then the last thing I'll talk about today, there's a lot more I could say here, but the last thing I'll talk about is community. So this is the relational aspect of what you're doing. What's important is to make room for novice musicians as well as pros. You definitely want a mix happening all the time. I had a few musicians who were paid, and they were just pro musicians, and they were amazing. And they kind of lift everyone up. And then I had, similar to that, I had just fantastically professional, excellent musicians who just were church members, who were just like, this is how I want to give to the church. They were like, and they maybe were in another professional field, not in music, but they at one point were professional musicians or something like that. So I have pros, you got pros worked in the mix, and then you want mid-level folks. I'm more of a mid-level guy. And then you want to have beginners up there, teens, folks who don't get to play very often. They're not professional level. But here's the thing, be creative with how you do it. Like, you can have 2 acoustic guitars, you can have a pro guitar player who's playing capo, interesting higher stuff, and then you can have an amateur level player who gets to strum away, and he doesn't necessarily have to take the intros to any songs. He doesn't have to be the backbone, but he can be playing up there. And you can make sure you roll off the bass of any beginner players, roll their bass off a little so they don't muddy things up. But they're having a great time, and they do add to the sound if you know how to mix them in, like mix them in properly, and then they'll thrive, and the band will actually be so much more fun and so much more full sounding. Don't limit yourself only to pro players. Watch out for that. Always make room for more. Singers too. Something I had started to do was you've got pro singers. I'd say with vocals, whoever's leading the song has to be excellent. That might be a rule I'm making now for you, is excellent, powerful, vibrant, charismatic, looking out, fearless. I'm singing the song and it means something to me and it means something to you. So the lead singer has to have that. Your harmony singer can also be powerful and charismatic, but doesn't have to be as charismatic as the lead singer. And then you can have 2, 3, 4 other singers with mics on stage who are lower level singers. All you have to do is turn up the reverb on their voice and carefully instruct them on when to come in when they sing. They don't have them starting on the very first verse, because they'll be watching you. They can just pull the mic down and sing. And then they can put the mic up, and now their voices sound beautiful when it starts blending with the rest of the maybe more experienced singers. That's all. It's just a matter of experience. Who's got the confidence to lead from a more experienced place, who's kind of like more of a hobby musician. Position people, mix people, and coach and instruct them, and use them carefully. Everyone doesn't have to be playing full bore all the time. So make room for everyone and be creative and clever in how you mix people in. That literally means the mix. Some people will be lower, higher. That's okay. If you watch even the most professional setups like Elevation Worship or Hillsong or Passion City out of Atlanta, watch their concerts. If there's 10 people on stage, sometimes you only hear 3 of them. I've seen acoustic guitar players strumming and he's not in the mix, because there's more to it. There's more to worship than just everyone has to be heard all the time. There's a lot of energy that's created with a lot of musicians, even if not everyone is literally being able to be picked out in the mix. So that's important. So then I'll just go to the end and say, here's an idea. This is just an anecdotal idea that you would extrapolate. And that is, try something like, for example, an impromptu hymn sing at somebody's house with a camera, and you just invite all the musicians to come, and it's totally impromptu and improvised and messy, and you just have you just hand out or put on a projector some charts, songs that you guys love to play together, whether they're hymns or whether they're contemporary songs, and you just start playing them, and people make big noises, and it's just fun. And then you film it and you share it on your church's website or release it on the church's social media. We had a fun hymn sing. Invite your friends to it. Invite the families of your musicians to come and sing. Kids are bouncing around, and that's a fun thing, because then it lets the other musicians kind of loosen up a little bit, not have to be strict according to the demos you sent out on Sunday, that sort of a thing for Sunday. So that's an example. Another example would be just basic stuff like make sure you're getting coffee with your folks and all that. Find creative ways of building community that makes sense and that is actually valuable. I was really bad at this. So I'm kind of passing the torch on to you guys. So hopefully that walkthrough of how to lead rehearsals at church is helpful for you guys. I was having a good time. If you talk to any of my volunteer musicians, they may disagree. So check on that. But hopefully this is useful. And also related to this, if you've made it this far and you haven't checked out my website, go to jaredmckenna.com. Link is in the description or in the comments, wherever. But jaredmckenna.com/free mini hymnal, I think it's called. You'll find it on there. It's a mini hymnal I put together of my stuff, my arrangements of classic public domain hymns, plus some of my worship songs I've written, and they're in various keys, simple, large print, chord chart. The keys have been made easy for guitar or piano, and you can just download it, spiral bound that thing, and lead your own hymn sings. So it's a great free resource. It's something that I wish I'd had. Instead of having a huge hymnal and having to be like, oh, I'm not going to sing this in D sharp major, I wish I'd had my hymnal when I first started out. So it's a free gift to you guys, and I'd love for you to have it and use it. Hope it serves you well. So, okay, thanks. See you next time.